Stream is live. Grid is live. Okay, so let's get Twitter on the ball. Streaming now. Come say hi. Add a photo. Pin that. Okay, that should be everybody on board. Make sure everything's cool. It does appear that I have a stream. I hope it sounds okay. Okay, so that gets closed. This stays open. Don't need that, don't need that. Probably help if I plug this in. That's better. So we have one person so far. I think that's not me. That might be me. That might just simply be me. Apologies for the weird color correction issue here with the makeup. These desk lamps, while awesome, still do weird things with my skin tone. As you can see, I get like weird, like green tones to my skin tone. I don't know why. My skin sucks. You don't want my skin. It's terrible. Yeah, so I'm just going to start working. I'm just going to go back to that comic we were working on last week and start sketching in some more details. And maybe by the end of the night, we'll get to some inking. That'd be kind of neat. Yeah. That is my goal for today. So I will go ahead and open Psy. That's not Psy. Definitely don't want Mischief. I want Psy. Thank you, hand. Clicking on the right thing. So I combine all of this into one. I did. Combined it all into one. Okay. Well, that should be pretty easy, so we'll just make a new layer. And I suppose you probably want to see my screen, huh? Let's do that. Oh, you just want to see me, like, move my my hand around on my... Okay, so... yeah, I want to do some more details in here and start filling in all of these scenes. So I'm going to call this one, this is going to be panel 1, background. I don't think Psy has a limit on number of layers, but I'm not sure. It should be fine. I'm sure it's fine. I'm sure it's fine. Let's zoom to... oh yeah, I made it the right size for that. Oh, thank God. Spacebar's grab. I hadn't actually figured out what the grab tool was, and it is spacebar, and that is a good thing. It is definitely a good thing. So, we're gonna start with... I need a pencilish color to do... what I want to do is do some details, so... let's start with making a new color. Something like that, a darkish gray. Should work. Oh, that's right, I have to right click. Set. There we go. It's annoying. Setting is the front button, at the bottom button on the pen. That is the right click. It's annoying that you have to do that and you can't, like, drag a color swatch into the palette spot here. That should be fine. I probably won't even use all these. But the idea with this scene, some collapsed highway. I may have been playing a bit of Fallout 4 when I came up with this idea. Maybe just a little bit. So we'll do this. Yes, I've been doing a little bit more work with, I say as I completely mess up that line. I've been doing a little more work with Psy and with this graphics tablet. I'm starting to get more of a hang of it. And I like it. It's not terribly sophisticated, but I like it. It works. It does what I ask it to, which is nice. I could probably fill some white in around these sketch marks that I'm not keeping. That would make things a little bit easier for me. But for the time being, so that's going to be all jagged and broken. Good Lord. Go the right direction, hand. That's the direction you need to go. Dealing with this, when I need to, you know, when I would normally take a piece of paper and start sketching in a different direction, things get a little weird when you do that with a graphics tablet, because your movements aren't, you know, they're not tied to the paper. So you start getting weird interactions. So it gets a little odd to try and do. And this part of living with a graphics tablet I have not gotten used to. So I want to... yeah, basically that's my angle I want. That's not working at all. And this is where, like, a tablet with a screen, you know, an iPad or a Surface or a Yoga or whatever the heck, comes in a lot more handy. Because you can rotate your paper that you're working on, your paper, and, you know, draw in more comfortable angles than you might be able to otherwise. But in this case, we're just going to use the eraser tool, because I'm frustrated. And I don't need it to be 20 wide. That is absolutely god-awful. Just toss all of that. Apparently I'm better off if I just use one stroke, because I got it just right. And now, of course, I can't get it right. Because that is how my brain works. You don't want my skin and you don't want my brain. Neither one of them work correctly. Both of them are a huge disappointment. There we go. So that's right there. This is all broken apart and corpseified and gross. And that's there. So then this piece is going to be like broken off and dug into the dirt. Which is why it's sticking onto the ground. So this line has to be parallel with the ground. Broken, 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 broken. Okay, so that's that. Broken, 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 broken. So since this is a different layer, I can either try and erase the pink that's under it, doesn't really matter, or I can just hide it if I can find the layer it's supposed to be in. My guess is, yeah, it's all of this stuff on layer 1. So that's a start. That's a good start. We'll say it's a good start for now. So we'll come back to this. Part of getting used to using a graphics tablet is actually, as much as I start moving it around on the desk, a lot of it is getting used to where it is as a static entity. Because you start to get used to what direction you move your pen and what direction that moves on the screen. So I'm kind of fighting myself a little here as I draw this, because part of me wants to turn it like I'd be turning a piece of paper, so I can make a nice, straight, vertical-ish line, and then turn my paper back. And part of me is like, no, hon, you did a bunch of work with this graphics tablet. You know what direction horizontal is. You've got that. You can see that from the line that I just drew. I know what direction horizontal is. I don't need extra help. It's okay. It's okay, brain. When your brain tries to help your brain, and none of it ends up working because brain does not work. So we have these buildings in the background that are basically going to be silhouettes. These are just going to be silhouettes of still standing buildings. It's just going to be a skyline. This is in my background layer, so I can go over my merperson. Mermaid. Gender check, aisle 3. Mermaid, okay. She, her? Okay. So that carries over here. it would make sense that there would be more going on in this area than just continuing over, but if you just keep the line going, it'll suspend disbelief a little bit better for your audience. So that's there and that's there. Even though it doesn't make any logical sense that one particular building would be that huge, it makes aesthetic sense. It certainly makes sense from your audience's perspective. Come on, hand. Wow, what the heck? Do it. There you go. I have a long way to go. I've been practicing more with it, but I have a long way to go. That's fine. So I want these buildings to be larger and behind her, to sort of frame her. So, I mean, I could... Does it make sense for them to be larger behind her? I could just make this a background building. I could actually make it lower than that even, just to make it really clear that it's a background building. And I can still have these tall ones that frame her. Do we have anybody else? We have another person! There's another person on the stream! Yeah. Hi! I can't look at it too much because otherwise I'll just it'll just be, the whole stream will just be me looking here, looking at my stream. Looking here, looking at my stream. Ah, hello hun. How are you? Did you catch my terrible joke? I'm kind of proud of it. I probably shouldn't be, but I'm kind of proud of it. Straight line. Oh, she didn't hear. So this building is like torn up and broken. So we'd have like exposed floors, exposed support columns and stuff. Along with a big gaping hole in the side. Then you'd have everything else that's coming out of it. Let's see, that would be there. Yeah, in reality there'd be a ton more floors and support columns, but this is a webcomic I'm doing in my free time, so I don't care. Yeah, so that's like destroyed there. Ah, darn. Missed my joke or didn't think it was funny. That's fine. Very possible that they joined and did not hear my joke. So that's going to go down all the way there. Wow, that's not right. Oh my god. There we go. Yikes. Inking is going to be bad. when I get to inking this, it's going to be terrible. So in this case, because we have a foreground building, a foreground-ish building, breaking up our background skyline, I am going to change the height of the building. Unlike over here, where we kept the same height, even though it doesn't really make sense to keep the same height, I'm going to change the height here. I want to go like that. Just sort of to frame it. Make this one long. This will be about the same as what I have in my outline. About the same. If I can draw a line, there we go. That's not great, but it'll do. So most of this, when it finally comes time to doing like the really complex work, the final inking, shading, coloring, this whole background is going to be really annoying. And I'm going to try my damnedest to do it and do it correctly. And not like take a fast way out. So we have that done. Let's zoom out for a hot second. Yeah, because I mean it's a full page wide. You know, it's going to be like a showcase panel to set the story. It should be cool looking. And that is okay to make it cool looking. Alright, so the mermaid. I want to move her over. I think I'm just going to grab her from that layer and move her over in the layer, because the other stuff in here I don't really care about. So I kind of want her to be here-ish. Still another one? Okay. I'm going to toss these building lines behind her, because I don't need them. Don't get overzealous. Don't get overzealous. Stop. Okay. Alright, so that's our basic layout for our mermaid. Sorta? Alright, I need to not hate on it and just draw over it. This is going to be panel 1 foreground. Actually, you know what? Let's do the panel 1 mermaid. A dedicated layer for the panel 1 mermaid. So, I'm still in gray. Let's make this a light gray. Small eraser. So she's going to be bending her arm right about here, honestly. Forward. And her hand will be outstretched. Thumb there. Because she's going to be like that. So, neck is in an okay spot. We have head there. She's going to be looking forwards. So eyes would be there. Yeah, that would work. Do the hair in a second. She's got on a backpack. That, of course, being underwater, it would conform to the hydraulic forces being exerted upon it, so it's going to kind of puddle down her back. Same with her boobs. Her boobs are too perky right now. Backpack's not bad. I like that design. Sort of a teardrop. That's fine. So we've got a rib cage here. To here. Pelvis. Hip bone. She is trying to figure her locomotion. She is going to be kicking. She's pulling in with her abs at the moment. How do fish work? Which means she's going to be... her tail's going to be much higher than it is in my doodle. It's going to be more like out here. I just have this like subconscious need to hold my graphics tablet as if I'm using a piece of paper. So this is going to actually... it's going to arc up a fair amount. She's pulling in a power stroke by pulling in her abs. So her tail will be up, way up here. And her tail fin would be following its previous trajectory. Because in this case, if she's coming down from where she was, and she's pulling down to do a big downstroke with her tail would be up high, and it would be following its previous trajectory. Which means, unfortunately, it's like edge on, so you're not going to actually see a lot of tail, of tail fin, which is going to be kind of shitty to draw, honestly. So for extra motion, we can exaggerate her ventral fins. In this case, her pelvic fins. We can exaggerate her dorsal fin as well. This would be, yeah, this would be fully extended. Because it's not currently under any hydraulic influence, really. And give her some little tail streamers to help with motion. It's just, that is just not gonna look great. I guess I could turn it. I mean, I can do whatever I want. It's just what would really make sense while also being aesthetically pleasing. So if I turn it, I can't draw curves. That's a bad example. Because if she turns it, I don't know, that doesn't make sense either. We can keep it short like a dolphin fin. Show the length of it in a different panel. That could work. I don't know, I guess it's about as good as it's gonna get at the moment. Alright, so we'll do her hair. Still not 100% happy with that tail. I just might have to change the tail pose just to satisfy my desire for aesthetics. Because I'm a dork. Alright, so let's finish off what I was doing in the background here. Not great, but that'll do for now. She's going to be swimming along a street. That's the idea. So, like, center of the frame is here. Like we do street. Markings along the street here. Like this. If I can draw a straight line, Jesus. That's the idea there. So if we zoom out a little and hide layer 1, that is what we have. That's what I could do. Taking away all the other stuff just showed it to me. Her tail, I could just make a quick extra layer and show you. I could continue the arc with her tail and pull her fins up this direction. That could see some spreading of her fin tips for some extra motion. That might be a thing to do. Let's save. And that's layer 1 is all that. Cool. So we're half an hour into the stream. We've got 3 folks. What? What's wrong with perky boobs? Okay, so she's swimming underwater, right? Breasts are, breast tissue is fat, which is mostly water. They're not particularly perky things, They move around. And when you're swimming, they get pushed against your body. It's just, I don't make the rules, it's just what happens. They are also slightly buoyant, so when you are, facing it straight up and down, they'll kind of like give you a little push-up effect. There's nothing wrong with perky boobs. It's just that breast tissue in this manner would not behave that way. Underwater, deep underwater, swimming forwards at fairly great speed. Considerable speed. Alright, I'm going to grab the edges off of this. And I don't really need anything else off of this, so I can just toss what I have on the inside of it. I'll just keep the frame. Let's do from there to there. That's the wrong layer. Let's do it on layer 1. There we go. Save that. Cool. Need to do a test? I mean, it's pretty easy to test. Just, grow your own boobs and then go swimming and done. The results will be apparent. Alright. So looking at the amount of time that's elapsed, we're at 40 minutes into the stream. I can spend more time on this panel and do more detail, or I can move on and start sketching down some of the outlines in the other panels. Which would you like to see? Alright. We have one vote for finishing panel 1. It's probably a good idea, honestly. Yeah, you're right, to finish this panel, because I've started it. Let's get it done. So I'll just hop back into 200%. Let's do that on the details. It's always a good idea when you start doing something that looks like shading to ask yourself, where is the light source? Now here's the thing. We are deep underwater in a ruined city with no electricity. We shouldn't, by rights, even be seeing any of this. None of it. It would be pitch completely black. There's no way you'd see anything. But we're going to assume that our audience member, whoever is reading this, is similarly aquatically adjusted, or at least we'll put them in the shoes of someone who is properly aquatically adjusted for this place. So we can add in the detail, and we can, add in some things that could be considered shading. How do we decide what direction the light source is from, though? I mean, we're underwater, so most of the light, what little light there is going to be coming in from above. right? So we'll have illumination on the ground. There'll be a tiny amount. If this were free air, you know, light coming in from above would hit a surface and then bounce off and illuminate the underside of things. However, since we're underwater, that's just not going to happen in reality. In the comic, once we're coloring, we can do that because who cares? It's a comic. I'm not streaming any movies. You don't get to watch movies on my channel. That's not what this is for. So we can do things like we can have different designs for the buildings in the background. I think I'll save the really interesting looking ones for the buildings behind our main character. There's two ways you could go with that. You could keep the really simple ones for the background of the main character so as not to detract from the main character. You could also put the interesting ones behind the main character to kind of highlight the main character. Both are valid. It depends on how busy you want your page to look, though. That's a really good straight line. I'm going to save it right after that. There's no chance in hell I'm going to do a straight line like that again. I need to decide what's in the foreground on this. Between the background buildings and the foreground road. I will have to have a think about that. I'm not sure what would go there. I can bomb out some of these buildings, make it more interesting. That's not bad. Can definitely deal with that. Let's do that with this one as well. Whew. Downside to doing detail. So So I'm just kind of like on mental autopilot, drawing windows on these buildings. They probably shouldn't even have them. I mean, I haven't totally worked out what exactly went down in this city before it was flooded, as far as backstory. Maybe these things should all have the windows blown out because there was a nuke. Who knows? I made it up, I sure as hell don't know. Okay, yeah, so pressure, sure, but I know at least the backstory of the flooding itself is basically just water, sea levels rising. So it would have been gradual. It wouldn't have been super fast. It's possible as it rose that parts of the city that were further out towards the coast would be abandoned as they became permanently flooded. So it could just be normal building disrepair versus like an atomic holocaust. It's just we don't fix these buildings because they're permanently under 3 feet of water. That could be more plausible. But the downside is that means a lot more buildings with intact windows, at least up high, because, well, I don't know, it depends. Like, how many looters would run through a flooded city where the electricity might not be turned off, and, you know, it'd be a coastal city, so there's the possibility of the ingress of, like, sharks and stuff, depending on the climate of the ocean that is next to you. These are the thoughts that go through my head. Like I said, you don't want my brain. It's very broken. I'm sure this is super, super riveting. I want to fix this mermaid tail before we continue, because it's bothering me. Not that I have to, because it's on a different layer, and it doesn't actually matter. But I want to... That's better. That's much better. It makes more sense, too. So... That's good there. It's going to need some shading at some point. We'll start on this side and move towards the center. So with the windows, it's less of an issue with getting your light source correct, since you basically just want something that looks shiny. And I'll go back over this when I do inking, and I'll make this look shiny. There's a number of ways you can make a thing look shiny. The simplest being just doing this, just with the diagonal kind of squiggly streaks. Can make a thing look shiny. At least in illustration. Doesn't really work for, like, 3D rendering. Because, yeah, you'll need to set up a shader and a material for that. But you know what I mean. Why don't I even keep that piece of line? There we go. So far, everything I've been doing, I've just been doing with the pencil tool here in Paint Tool Sci. I found it's pretty good. It's pretty versatile for what I need it to do. If I put more effort into it, it will even like shade nicely. Although, granted, the paintbrush and the airbrush tools both shade really, really nicely too, once you get used to how they work. So they don't quite work the same way they work in other paint programs, because of course. Oh, my hand. Holy cow. Oh wow, we're over an hour now. I might call this one early. We did an hour and a half last week. I've been having some serious problems with my wrist the last week. Ooh, between typing at work and drawing at home. So I think I might call this one. We'll finish up this building, but I think I'm going to call it here. Not quite as good a turnout this time, but that's okay. I mean, it's drawing. It's pretty boring. And that's okay, because if I schedule it at the same time every week, I actually do it. I sit down and actually start and finish a project, which is cool. I never, ever thought I would finish this thing, let alone get as far as I'm in it now. Oh, ouchies. Ouchies, ouchies, ouchies. Yeah, we'll chill off. We'll chill out there. All right. So, as far as what we have gotten done, that is what we've gotten done. That is awesome. God, that looks 1,000 times better already. That's so cool. Sweet. Okay, so I will be back and streaming at the same time, 7 p.m. Pacific time, next Tuesday. We'll go for an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours next time, assuming I can heal up my wrist in the ensuing week. We'll see. But yeah, thanks for joining me, and I hope you found it at least maybe entertaining, or, I don't know, a good way to kill an hour of your time. Have a great night, and take care.